Hey, my people, welcome back to The Breakdown. I'm your host, Sandra Bebu Boateng. Today, we're diving into a fascinating story that's been making waves in the art world. It's about a long-lost painting of an African prince from the Ga tribe in Ghana, which has been found and is now on sale in the Netherlands for a whopping $16.3 million. Yes, millions. Who is this prince? How did he end up in Austria in 1897 for this painting? And how come most Ghanaians and Africans don't even know his name? We're going to break it down. But before we do, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another critical conversation like the one we're about to have. So a few days ago, CNN dropped a piece about a portrait that has resurfaced after being lost for decades. And not just any portrait, we're talking about a painting by none other than Gustav Klimt. If you know your art history, Klimt is a big deal. The same guy who painted The Kiss. But this one is a portrait of Prince William ni Nortey Dowona, a royal figure from the Ga people, present-day Ghana. The painting was done in 1897 and has been missing since World War II. Now it's back on display at a fancy art fair in the Netherlands, and it's up for sale at a jaw-dropping $16.3 million. Let that sink in. A portrait of an African prince painted over 100 years ago by one of Europe's most famous artists, lost, found, and now selling for millions. Wow. But here's where things get deeper. This portrait wasn't painted because Klimt just happened to stumble upon a Ghanaian prince while on vacation and said, hey, cool, let me do this portrait of you. Nope. It was during something called the Volksshow, or People's Show, which was basically a human zoo. These were exhibitions in Europe where people from colonized parts of the world, including Africa, were put on display like museum artifacts. So Prince Dowona was one of the invited representatives of the West African Osu tribe to attend. During this event, Austrian artist Gustav Klimt painted a portrait of him. But apparently, the prince not only sat for Klimt, he was also depicted by artist Franz Marsch, whose painting of ni Nortey Dowona hangs in a museum in Luxembourg. So while this painting is now being celebrated for its artistic value, we cannot ignore the context in which it was created and the many questions it raises, quite frankly. Now let's talk about Prince William ni Nortey Dowona. I am just fascinated by his story. First of all, there is literally no information on him anywhere before this story surfaced. So I'm going to have to go to Ghana to do an investigative piece on him and the Osu royal family because I'm really fascinated by this. But what we do know is that he was part of the Ga royal family from Osu. He was nephew of the Osu king at the time. Now, the Ga people, they are known for their rich culture, festivals, and deep traditional institutions. They are credited with establishing the city of Accra, which now serves as the capital and a major commercial and educational center of Ghana and much of West Africa. And here's something you should know. The Osu royal family didn't disappear into history. It is still very much alive today. The current king of the Osu people is Nortey ni Nortey Owo IV. And he continues to uphold the traditions and leadership of the Ga state. How incredible. It's a powerful reminder that while so much of our royal history has been erased or misunderstood, these institutions are still standing, still guiding, still rooted in community and culture. So Prince William ni Nortey Dowona wasn't just some random man visiting Austria. This man was someone who carried weight. He represented a whole kingdom. But how did a Ga prince end up in Austria in 1897? Now let's zoom out for a second, because understanding what was happening in Africa at that time gives us some important context for how and why a Ghanaian prince ended up in Austria being painted by Gustav Klimt. So what was going on in Africa in 1897? Well, this was smack in the middle of what historians call the scramble for Africa. Heard of that? European powers were carving up the continent like a pie, colonizing territories, redrawing borders, and asserting control over African kingdoms. The British, French, Germans, Belgians, you name it, they were all in on it. In fact, 1897 is the same year the British launched the punitive expedition against Benin in what is now Nigeria, looting the royal palace and stealing the famous Benin bronzes, many of which still sit in European museums today. Now, that's a story for another day. So across the continent, African monarchies were under intense pressure. Some were resisting colonial rule. Others were navigating complex relationships with European powers, trying to maintain their sovereignty. In that light, Prince William Nortey Dowana's appearance wasn't random in Austria. It was most likely political. Ghana, then known as the Gold Coast, was already under British influence. Sending a royal to Europe could have been a strategic move, possibly encouraged or facilitated by colonial authorities to show, loyalty, to negotiate power, or maybe even to participate in these so-called ethnographic exhibitions that presented African people as exotic curiosities. Who knows? So while we don't have all the details, it's clear that he wasn't just a tourist. His presence there tells us a lot about how African leaders were navigating power in a world that was rapidly being shaped or reshaped by colonialism. I'm curious to know how he was treated there. Did they roll out the red carpet for him like a true royalty? I've got so many questions. But on another note, this whole story reminds us how much of our African royal history is still in the shadows. We know the names of European monarchs like Queen Victoria or Louis XIV. But what about our own? How many names of African kings and queens and princes do you know? And yet, these kings, queens, and princes, they led complex, thriving societies long before colonizers arrived. We need to know their names. We need to tell their stories. Because right now, a painting of a Ghanaian prince is being sold in Europe for millions. And most of us didn't even know he existed. So, my people, what do you think? Does this painting belong in a European collector's home, or should it be back in Ghana? How do we reclaim our stories when so much of our past has been stolen, hidden, or forgotten? And what responsibility, guys, do we have to educate ourselves and each other about the history that was never taught to us? Let's talk about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more honest conversations that break things all the way down. This is The Breakdown. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, take care. Hey, you! Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Also, visit face2faceafrica.com for your daily news and updates on what's going on within the global Black community so you can stay informed.